So like you said, like if you're gonna come on the minbar, you have to speak the truth, right? And that's what I think that's why, like Muslim men are kind of gravitating towards this red pill movement, because they don't hear the ulama in the masajid say like this is Islam. Like we said before, like I mentioned before, that I didn't know that the wife, if the husband doesn't want the wife to work, she can't work, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't learn that until later on. And the thing is that like that's even if a woman is alone without a husband, there's conditions to her working. Like some of those conditions is that she can maintain her Islam, that she can maintain her hijab, she can maintain her separation from men, and that there's a need if she is doing such things. But most of these sisters, may Allah forgive them, they're between 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, most of them. They're going to work these like minimum wage jobs at whatever Starbucks or whatever it is, and they're not able to maintain any of those conditions, and there's no reason for them to work because the father's already taking care of them financially. So you are just, the father should also be aware that like if he's going to allow his daughter to work, she's going to be exposed to fitna that she's not getting exposed to when she's in the masjid or when she's at home. Like they have to be aware of these things. And I think like that's like you mentioned, the youth, right? Like you have to have that ghira over our women. We have to be protective over them and be aware that this is not us being some level of controlling. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants of the men. They want them to be strong, they want them to be leaders, they want them to protect the women. And this is not something that is a bad quality. As much as Western society and liberal society wants to paint us like these, like these really controlling or overprotective men. No, like we are the ones that are actually, in that middle path, and the ones that are using their women to sell things online. That's the youth extreme, right? And then the ones that are like, I don't even want my wife to leave the house to go to the masjid. That's the other extreme of overprotective, right? But like we are as Muslims of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we're like in that middle path. Like yes, we understand that there are these extremes, but we understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and we're trying to do that, right? But like you said, like it comes down to these ulama, when they're saying continuously, like you'll hear this all over the internet, and those feminist Muslims that are Muslimas that are reposting or resharing these videos or whatever, wherever it says for example, the Prophet ﷺ was the best to his wives, right? And the Prophet ﷺ would do chores in the home before he would go to the masjid. They're so adamant in sharing the ulama that talk about this, right? But then when different ahadith are shared, that if the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to tell anybody to bow down to anybody else as a human being, it would be the wife to her husband. But we aren't. But that's the level of honor a husband has to his wife. But nobody is reminding the sisters about this in regards to them being obedient. Nobody is reminding the sisters that they can enter Jannah from any gate as long as they fast the month of Ramadan, protect their chastity and obey their husband. No ulama is going on the minbar in our locality, or I see online, reinforcing this value that men are to be obeyed by their wives. And I think that's why, as I mentioned all the things before, I think that's why Muslim men in general are gravitating towards this red pill movement, right?
The problem with the masajids and ulamas, like when an imam getting fully jobs is making his imam, his masjid full-time jobs as an imam, that's getting problematic because it's getting paid by that masjid or that organization, whatever is happening. That was an issue in Afghanistan too. Whatever imam was fully on that masjid, like 5 times salah, madrasa, whatever was it, and there was no other source of income for him. It was just that masjid. And whatever those people and community told him, like he was obeying, okay, whatever, that's it, because he was scared of his source of income. I think that's a very bad thing when you're making your income from a deen way. I think there's a hadith too, like it's not allowable to make you're from deen monies. Like there's a hadith, or I think there's a hadith like don't make Quran money or something. Like this is the problem. Like when you make money from your imam, when you're doing like imamat or whatever it is, like that's getting problematic. Like then people, they will ask you like, okay, now we have like elections here, you have to support that, and we have like a thought of views and this and that is happening. Then that imam is slowly is compromising the deen, and finally he's reaching in a stage which is like a Omar Sulaiman or like lots of other imams which they saying
everyone
stuff.
from Yaqeen and Suffi, basically, yeah.
Like which it's like contradicting with Islam, but it doesn't matter because they are not drowned in it.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing, right? It's like you mentioned, like you'll notice the imams that aren't getting a salary from the masjid,
Yeah.
those imams are the most honest.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the risk tied to being what they say, right?
Yeah.
Like alhamdulillah, that's one of the good reasons that we do what we do. Nobody pays us to be here, we can say the truth, right? Alhamdulillah. But in a situation like that where they have a boss, the board of the masjid is their boss, and they can only do certain things, and they have to get certain khutbah topics approved.
Yeah, the problem is like you cannot go from one masjid to another masjid. Like most of masajid is controlling by one organization.
Yeah.
Like it's happening, especially in Western countries. Like this is kind of our agenda, like control all masajids like under one organizations. If you're not agree, then you cannot go in any other masjid. Like I know imams here, he's young, like he's saying the truth, but they kick him out from one masjid, and now it's hard for him to go find another masjid.
No, it's true, because they have a monopoly on the truth, or a version of Islam that they want to paint to the public.
Yeah.
And if anybody comes with, a truer version, we'll say, of Islam that we know is the truer version, then that person is labeled an extremist or this and that and the other, right? And it's like, no, actually he's just being honest with you about the deen, right?
Yeah.
And you are wanting to make it more tasteful for the non-Muslim public so that you can get grants or be accepted by them, whatever
100%. Yeah.
whatever the meaning, whatever the intention is behind it. Obviously it's, you're watering down the deen and compromising the deen for the sake of the kuffar. Allahu Akbar. One thing that I think that I thought about when you said is that specifically when we water down the khutbah and we make it palatable, you get these I don't want to say sicknesses, but you get like a deviation that happens in the deen where people are starting to go towards Redpill or feminism or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think is like a solution for that? Because for example, like polygyny, having multiple wives, the official stance of some Canadian Muslim organizations, I don't know if you've seen this, but they're like, you have to follow the law of the land you are in. So you are not allowed to marry a second or third or fourth wife while living in anywhere that doesn't officially allow polygynous marriages. So Canada, USA, wherever. You're not allowed to marry more than one. And that is you following the land of the country. You have to do that. They even label it as wajib and labeling it as haram to have a second or third or fourth wife, and wajib for you to only have one wife.